This is Northwest Reports. I'm Sarah Bernard. You're listening to the second episode of Northwest Reports Live, which features conversations we had with influential Seattle community members at the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival in May. We talked to each guest about their relationships to the Emerald City, including what they love about living here and what they think could use a little improvement. This episode's guest is Mindie Lind. She's a local writer, musician, filmmaker, and overall creative person. She's working on an animated feature film about sex, drugs, and rock and roll without legs. Mindie has also written about some unpleasant experiences she's had living in Seattle, specifically the inaccessible spaces she's had to navigate as a person born without legs. You'll hear us get into all of that and more in this episode of Northwest Reports Live, which, by the way, will have some explicit language. All right, let's get to Mindie.
Thank you.
Is that a good intro?
Overall creative person is amazing.
You've done so many things. I was like, just creative person. For example, I just wanted to start off by talking about View from the Floor, which is in its current form anyway. It's a 5-minute animated short film that has been already in a lot of festivals and is going to a lot of festivals, and I think has won at least one award.
We won a couple awards.
Nice.
A couple awards. And we went to Sundance. That was our first festival. And it was actually, it started, I didn't hang on for the question, but it started as a proof of concept for our full-length feature film by the same name, and we were just trying to raise money to get the movie made. And then we were like, well, it's kind of a standalone short. Let's just enter it into like a festival or two, mostly to get money. And then we got into Sundance, which was like, and I found out on my wedding day. It was like, holy shit. And then, we've been in like 14 festivals. We won a couple awards. We were just at SIFF. We were acquired by the New York Times. It's all been very exciting and great. And now we're fully funded for the feature-length film. And we're in animation. We've been at it for a couple months now. And like the whole thing is sort of unbelievable and really exciting and fun.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, for people who haven't seen that short, I wonder if you could talk about what it means to you, what you want people to feel and get out of it. Yeah.
So, it's tricky because the feature-length film really, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll without legs. And it's also about me becoming a 40-year-old woman, confronting my own ableism as I look back on my life. So it's an animated memoir about my life. And I don't think it's something that we get to do, is to like sort of take a seat back and be like, how have I confronted my, I had a lot to prove to everybody for a really long time that disability is not what you think it is. And that was my life up until I was 40 years old. And now I'm like, I don't have shit to prove to anybody. And disability still isn't what you think it is. And so this really is the crux of the movie. Part of that in the short View from the Floor is about exploitation and thinking back as my life as a performer. And, it's tricky. Everyone thinks I'm really awesome or amazing for doing just the simplest stuff, like going to the grocery store. And so when they say your songs are amazing or you're super talented, it gets really like it's a special, individual, sort of very specific kind of imposter syndrome, although imposter syndrome is a widely understood phenomenon that I think, in its specificity, it's very universal. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of touching on that a little bit. In terms of your singing career, you sung and performed around Seattle at different venues, and you actually have written about why you stopped. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I rode around on a skateboard for 10 years, and I was like just the baddest, most agile thing in town, and I can get up and do anything and just be a hero every day, right? So I would like climb the steps to the stages, all the historically protected stages, and make it work, right? Because when it comes to access, it's like you either do it or don't do it, and the problem is either on you or the society. And so for so long, I was like, well, I'm going to do it, and it's my problem. And so at some point, my body began to wave the white flag. I'm 40 years old now, and I've been using my arms as legs the whole time. And it's just, I can't sit on a skateboard every day. I'm old now. And so there are certain things like climbing stairs, like that I am not able to do in the same way that I am in my youth. And even if I could, I think now, since that happened, I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, if you can't have me, then you don't get me, kind of thing. And so it's like, there aren't any stages that are accessible in Seattle. I'd say there's 2. And so there is a real problem. And even if I could get on the stage now, like I said, it's just kind of like, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be telling people that this is our solution, is for me to take that burden on.
So you were just taking the stairs for years.
Lifting all my gear up, plugging it in, being a hero, wearing my little cape, loving every second. And now I'm like, I actually got that quote from Ali Stroker, who is a Broadway star who has disability. She's also been on And Just Like That. She's bad. She's like bad to the bone in a good way. And she was like, you know, theaters in New York, that's where she's performing. And she just kind of like, because you want to do anything. It's like an artist thing too. Like, I'll do whatever it takes to get the thing. And, you know, and so you don't want to be seen as difficult. Like, well, you can't accommodate me, so you can't have me. But I actually think that's like really powerful and useful. And I think I believe in my value enough to like say and do that now. I'll just be a studio artist until change is made. And, you know, there are some stages, obviously. But I think me running into this problem is where I'm at with everything, you know? Like, I think me having a voice and saying it, like, all that's really useful stuff. So I don't sit around. I'm not like mad. I'm still writing songs and stuff, but it's a thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Seattle specifically, it sounds like, has maybe a dearth of accessible stages in this way, and you know, maybe that's left over from a time when old buildings were built before ADA was a thing or whatever. But you also wrote a piece recently that's still sticking with me about our new waterfront park. Can you tell us that story? Like, what was your experience, and why did you decide to write that piece about it?
My husband and I just got back from our honeymoon. We spent 3 weeks in Paris. It was so fancy. And when we got back, we live downtown Seattle, and so we're right on the waterfront. We've been watching this thing get built, and we've been so excited, like, because it's massive. And the whole time, before stairs go in, they look like ramps. And so we were like, holy cow, there's going to be ramps. And it was just really exciting and cool. And of course we're going to do that, you know? And then we get back from our honeymoon. And also we're very excited. Like, Seattle is an international city. Like, hell yeah, you know? And then we get back and we get closer. Like, let's see how it turned out, you know, closer and closer. And then we were like, those are stairs. And you know, I'm from the music industry in Seattle. I understand that we're underground, and that's a whole other thing. And historically protected buildings are a whole other thing, sort of, right? Like, the ADA happened in the 1990s, and we said historically protected buildings means that if it was made before 1990, we don't have to do anything about it ever, which is like silly, right? Like, computers were done in 1990 and we're just going to stick at DOS. Doesn't make any sense. There's more technology available. Why would we make that rule? But when it comes to making new things, like a completely new waterfront that had a 10-year like award program for somebody to earn that like bid in order to create that space, and then what they didn't use universal access, like, I was like, what are we talking about? This is a brand new installation. There's no excuses. We have money. We certainly have money. I saw the thing. It's really beautiful, right? And so, like, there's the funds there. We are a progressive city. And I still think that, right? Like, I grew up in the South. I understand that we are progressive. But then it's like, are we? Like these little things come up where you're like, I'm not quite sure we can pat ourselves on the back quite yet. And yeah, there's an elevator, but like the whole point of the waterfront is literally to enjoy, and I think they have this on their website, but the market, go down to the market to the actual waterfront to enjoy the space and the view, and to like have it be a natural path between those two things. And so you can enjoy the view in the waterfront in lieu of the viaduct, right? And so if I, as a wheelchair user, am going around the space, don't have choice in the space, by the way. That's what access is about. It's not about a ramp that is a certain grade. It's about being able to make choices in spaces. And so if I don't have any choices and I have to go around back, which is the view's that way, I'm turning that way, I'm going into a little 10 box when they could have made an elevator with a view, and I don't have any choices. I'm ostracized. I'm not using the space as it was intended, and I'm not the only one. And it's not just about wheelchairs either. It's about how can we like make the space, not how. There are ways. It is already done to make spaces inclusive for the most amount of people possible. And so to have a brand new installation in 2025 in a affluent city is like bananas.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that you said, which is you do think Seattle is a progressive city, but there are pockets or elements of how we operate that maybe don't check out with that narrative. Do you think that Seattle is as progressive as it says it is? Do you think that's a title that's well-earned, or what's
Again,
your
I come
experience
from
been
the
like?
South, so I feel like my idea is very skewed because I'm like, yeah, totally is. But like, we have a really tricky relationship with the cops in Seattle, and racism is real, and so is there's a bunch of stuff we're not doing right. And so I don't know if our lawmakers are as progressive as our people, or what I don't know. I only know what I see, but for sure, like, it's progressive in that it's new. It's progressive in that it's the most artistic place I've ever been. Like, just wonderful pockets of like inclusion around art and stuff like that. But I don't know. No, as progressive as it hopes to be, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think one of the things we wanted to do with this series of conversations today is to sort of question that narrative, or sort of help to, interrogate that a little bit, or help to define Seattle's identity a little bit more, which I think is challenging in a time of so much change. And one of the, I think, elements that a lot of people who've been here a little while feel is this sort of tension around the economic pressures going on in the city, and the changing, of culture because of tech and the community there. So there's this line from the piece that you wrote about the waterfront park that I was thinking about. You say, there's something about living a few blocks from Pike Place Market that makes it easy to see that, like Paris, Seattle has its cute shops, sites, and dare I say, culture. And I really, I read that and I resonated with it. And then I thought about it for a second, and I was just curious, why did you feel like putting in the dare I say in there? Like what sort of spurred that feeling? There's sort of like, it's your home and you feel differently about a place you travel versus where you live. But is there anything specific about, like, are we holding on to culture by the skin of our teeth? What resonates for you there?
Yeah, I mean, so part of that was that I just got back from Paris, and it's like they're just filthy with it, right? Like, even if they like are doing construction on a building, they make the facade look like old and beautiful too. So they are like obsessed. And I think for us and for me, what I see as far as Seattle's culture, or the one that I've been immersed in, right? So there's a lot going on in South Seattle, and there's so many different cultural pockets there in North Seattle. But like for me, the culture of music in Seattle is so rich. And it has been for so long. And we almost, and same with film, really like we're so saturated with talent and all these people who are like creating community around creating. And I don't, we struggle a little bit to industrialize ourselves, right? To create industries around that. And we have these like, in the 90s, there was Nirvana. And then in, 10 years ago, there was like a punk girl pop thing that was rising out of Seattle too. And none of those people can afford to live here now. And so there are definitely, I think, of course, the economic disparity is present there, but like that's not like a give up. Same with like the historical building stuff, it's like it's about who you as a community value. And so like there's always money, especially if tech is here, right? There's a lot to give. I work for a big tech company and I know that they're always giving. And so as well as like the state of Washington themselves. And so like it's about having a larger understanding about who you value and like being frank about because if the problem was all the white boys couldn't get on stages, we would have funded it. And if the problem was all the white boys don't have a culture that they belong to and can't afford to live here anymore, we would have figured it out. And so it's not about the resources. It's about like marrying our ideals with like what we're like actually growing in Seattle.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your comment earlier when you said there's maybe 2 accessible venues or places that you feel welcome in. And I know that there are a lot of communities that you've carved out for yourself here. And so much of your life is rooted in performance, but then you're running into these issues where venues are maybe not as accessible or welcoming or accommodating. And I wonder, are there places that you do feel welcomed and considered? And what are those?
Well, I feel welcome everywhere I go. And it's tricky. And this is part of my ableism is that I have been a hero for so long, right? And so like, I've lived a really inaccessible life and I've gotten used to that discomfort. And in a lot of ways, like I tend to feel all right in that space. So I don't feel unwelcome. I don't feel like I'm going to play a show. And so I think generally speaking, like, it's not like people are like, ooh, hiss, boo, she's here, But I definitely am like, oh, I'm not getting calls to play, especially because I wrote that article. And they were like, we don't want to fuck with Mindie. She's going to call us out. But I hopefully some action's been taken since. But I don't know. I don't know the answer. I know that I play only at like Disability Awareness Month now. It's kind of interesting. And so do I feel welcome as a person in this community? Yes. Like I know people care about me. I know music venues don't. They're barely surviving. They don't have money to make their stuff accessible, but that's not on them, right? It's about the community at large. And so like, I don't feel uncomfortable in those spaces. I hope they don't feel uncomfortable having me in those spaces, but I do think that there is something largely unwelcoming about our like economic structures and like who we decided to value in Seattle.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of a big question, but in that vein, I mean, what do you think about the future of Seattle? Like, where do you hope to see it go? Given your experience, you've been here a while, you've done a lot of thinking about these structures and these systems and these cultures. Yeah, I mean, what would you like to see change, if anything, and what stay the same?
It's interesting because I feel like I have a hot take on change in cities, which is like, oh, the venue's gone and we're losing this and, and like, I understand that. I was definitely like a part of Cafe Racer, for example, and that had like a huge cultural like light around it. And when it left, it was like, the bottom dropped out in some ways. But my hot take is that cities change. That's what they do. And there's a reason that I'm not living in rural America is because I do like that change and I don't want to feel stagnant and stale. I think one thing that we struggle with in Seattle, especially in the arts community, is how to industrialize our selves and our communities, right? It's like, I mean, I feel like when I first got here 20 years ago, the reason was because it was like sellout culture. Like, we're not going to sell out. And like, we don't want to make money. We're here to play in our basement. And like, that's silly. Like, let's get radical and let's get loud and let's have people who aren't on screens. And like, I would love if Seattle took this like awesome film community that we have here and like make a tax incentive that made sense for us to like, because then when we incentivize the programs through funding, then we can create rich cultures, because right now it's all on the artists who can't afford to live here. And so it's really about that, like us ourselves as artists not being scared to be like, you know what, like I work my ass off every day and I'm playing, 2-3 shows a month. Like, this should be a living wage. It shouldn't be something that I'm just like, oh, it's in my basement, that's all I expect, And like, same with films. It shouldn't all be indie stuff. We have a huge new studio, Harbor Studios in South Seattle for film. And like, even that's struggling because we don't have a tax incentive program that makes it possible to be filming here in Seattle. And so it's still on the artist. And until we start taking that pressure and those responsibilities off the individual and off the artist, then the culture's going to die. We need to support it.
Thank you so much. It looks like we're right on time.
Seconds. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mindie.
you. Yeah.
So
Thanks.
much.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the second episode of Northwest Reports Live. Be sure to check out the other 3 episodes, which are available right now, wherever you get your podcasts. This episode of Northwest Reports was produced by Maliha Syed and me, Sarah Bernard. The story editor was Ryan Famuliner. Our executive producer is Sarah Menzies. Our production manager is Adam Brown. Thanks to Scott Michael for his help with editing this episode. You can subscribe to Northwest Reports wherever you listen, and whatever platform you're listening on, please review us. We'd love to know what you think of the show. Northwest Reports is made possible by listeners like you. Your support will tell the stories that shape Washington State. Join the members who help us create Northwest Reports. Your donation will be put to work right away, delivering the Cascade PBS lineup of podcasts, video docuseries, and daily in-depth reporting you and so many rely on. In addition to supporting our journalism, members receive great member benefits, including Cascade PBS Passport, with extended access to an on-demand library of local and PBS favorites. Go to cascadepbs.org/NW Reports to sign up today. For the latest political, investigative, and cultural coverage from the Pacific Northwest, visit cascadepbs.org. That's also where you'll find Northwest Reports Live. I'm Sarah Bernard. We'll be back soon with another episode.